So, well, it might not be morning where you are, but it is where I am. Anyway, so we're doing the binomial expansion, and we're now going to talk about how we deal with expressions like this. So just to sort of recap, what we've looked at so far is how to deal with expressions like this. Okay, and we've talked about our expansion, and you should be pretty happy now with what that would be. Okay, so we're going to turn an expression like this into an expression like that. And what would we need to do? Well, if you remember, x doesn't have to be x, so that's not really an issue, but the 4 is. Okay, so because this is not an equation, I can't sort of do anything like, cancel or divide or anything like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to factorize, because factorizing doesn't actually change the value of an expression. So I'm going to, and I'll show you what, I'm going to sort of rewrite it much larger like this. And I tell you what, I might actually even put square brackets around there. Because what I'd like to do is I want to keep, on the outside, I'm going to keep everything the same, but I'm going to sort of play around with this. And what am I going to do? I'm going to, inside those square brackets, I'm going to take a 4 out. And hopefully you can see why I've chosen a 4. What would it leave me with? 1. 4 times 1 is 4. So if I factorize a 4 out, I'll be left with 1 plus x being divided by 4, or a quarter x. That's the same as saying a quarter x, isn't it? Okay, and then that whole thing there would be to the power of a half. Okay, now why am I doing this? Well, what you can do now is you can apply the power to the 4, but also to this bracket. Okay, so that will be the same as 4 to the power of a half multiplied by the bracket to the power of a half. Now what do you see? Hopefully you see on the right hand side a problem that was exactly the same as what we've dealt with already, and on the left hand side, well, what is 4 to the power of a half? Yeah, we're going to just say 2, aren't we? Okay, so we're going to have 2, and to be honest with you, you can kind of just keep the 2 left over here for the question and sort of multiply it at the end. Technically this should be brackets, but I'm just sort of doing this to make you very aware that you can keep it separately out at the front. And then this bit here, you're going to do the same expansion that you've done before. So this is going to be 1 plus, and then you're going to do the nx, for example. And it's worth, isn't it, each time just writing down what these things are. So x is x over 4, and the n is a half. So this is going to be the next part. I suppose we could sort of write it out. I'll just do the first 3 terms, okay? And I'm going to just hop straight to 2 because I know that 2 factorial is 2. So if I just sort of write this general form out here and substitute these things in, I'm going to have 2 times the 1. The nx is going to be a half times x over 4, which is x over 8. Okay. Or if we go over here, we're going to have a half times a minus half, which is minus a quarter. And then that whole thing becomes minus 1/8, doesn't it? The x squared is going to be x squared over 16. So 8 times 8 is 64, double that. So it's going to be minus 128. Sorry, minus 1 over 128 x squared. I suppose I could put the x squared on the top like this. And so on. Hopefully you kind of get the idea there. So the only difference is really that you'd have to sort of multiply then this 2 back at the end, which is not that hard. I mean, it's just going to be a 2, isn't it? It's going to be a 2, and then you can just make the denominators half as large. So x over 4, okay, minus x squared over 64. And like I said, I've just done the first 3 terms on this one. Okay, let's just have a quick check with that one there. 2 plus a quarter x minus 1 over 64x squared. Okay, hopefully you can see that the way we've written it is the same. And I suppose just some ideas. When's it valid? Well, that idea about this is still the same. This bit inside the bracket when you do the binomial. Okay, so we still want the absolute value of x over 4 to be less than 1. Multiply by 4 both sides. Okay, and that's what we're coming up with. So part B is not really too bad at all.